If you have these signs, you hold 5 rare dual vibrations of a dark chosen one. There are moments in life that split time, not because they are grand or loud, but because they shift something in the center of your soul. If you've ever stood in a room full of people and felt alone, not out of loneliness, but because you see too much, you're already awakening to something ancient, something rare, something that doesn't belong to this world alone. There's a vibration you carry that doesn't just move through your body. It radiates from your energy field like a silent pulse. And it doesn't blend in. It never was supposed to. If anything, it disturbs the illusion. It breaks false harmony. It disrupts the surface. You wonder why people either instantly love you or seem to recoil from you without reason. You've asked yourself, why do I feel so different, even around people who claim to be spiritual? It's because you're not just awakening, you're remembering. You're remembering who you are beyond the physical. You're remembering the missions you agreed to before birth. You're remembering that you came here not just to shine light, but to walk through shadow as light. And for that, you were given something most people will never carry: dual vibrational coding.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
This is not a metaphor. It's real. Some souls are born with a single dominant frequency. They are easy to classify: light workers, shadow workers, healers, protectors. But then there are the anomalies, the ones who hold both the sacred shadow and the radiant light simultaneously. These are the dark chosen ones. And if you're still watching, still listening, still resonating, then this might be the mirror you've been waiting for. Because only those who carry it can recognize it. You don't learn this from a book. You are the book, and your life has been the fire that wrote it. The first sign you hold a rare dual vibration is that your energy causes emotional chaos in others, even when you say nothing. You don't have to speak. You just have to enter the room. Your vibration activates people's buried truths. It pulls their masks off, not violently, but undeniably. And most don't know how to handle that. So they either idealize you or villainize you. Some want to be around your energy constantly because it makes them feel alive, seen, awakened. Others run from it because it reminds them of everything they've suppressed. This is not a social dynamic, it's energetic law. Your light exposes, your darkness reflects, and together they act like a spiritual defibrillator. The second sign is that you've never fully belonged anywhere, and deep down, you know that's part of your purpose. You're a bridge, not a settler. You're not here to camp inside systems, you're here to dismantle them. And that's exhausting, isn't it? Trying to explain yourself to people who haven't even begun the descent into their own shadow. Trying to find your reflection in a world still obsessed with filters. But the truth is, your isolation has been your refinement. Your solitude has been your temple. Every time you were rejected, ghosted, misunderstood, or silenced, something deeper in you activated. Your vibration sharpened. Your clarity deepened. You weren't being punished, you were being forged. The third sign is that you've always felt like you're living in multiple realities at once. You see the surface that people live in, but you also sense the undercurrents. You know when someone's words don't match their energy. You can feel the unspoken pain behind someone's smile. You can walk into a space and feel the residue of what happened there days or years ago. You are multidimensional by nature, and that's not just spiritual fluff, it's neurological, intuitive, psychic. Your nervous system is wired to process truth on multiple levels, and that's why you sometimes feel overwhelmed in crowds, drained by small talk, or even heartbroken by things you can't explain. Your system isn't malfunctioning, it's receiving more than most people will ever realize exists. But with that gift comes a fourth sign. You've had to master the art of silence, not because you're weak, but because your voice is too strong. You've learned that truth, when spoken too early, can shatter someone who's not ready. You've watched people implode not because you harmed them, but because you reflected them. You've had to swallow your knowing, hold your tongue, walk away, not because you're afraid, but because you respect the timing of awakening. You've become a master of restraint, of energetic discernment, of choosing when to reveal and when to remain a mystery. This is a sacred skill, and it's often mistaken for aloofness. But you know what it really is: power under control. And then there's the fifth sign, the rarest of all. You've been through initiations that no one saw, spiritual surgeries, ego deaths, nights of terror where you felt like your soul was being ripped apart molecule by molecule. Not just once, many times. And every time you came back, you brought something with you. A new frequency, a deeper clarity, a stronger field. People don't know what you've survived because you don't wear it like a badge. You carry it like a sacred code. And that code is in your vibration. It's why people feel safer around you, even when they don't like you. It's why others confess things to you they've never told anyone else. It's why animals, children, and strangers are drawn to you. You don't need to do anything. You are the work. So now, let me ask you something that only you can answer. What if your entire life was never about fitting in, but about remembering who you are, so you could help others remember too? This is not about superiority. It's about responsibility. Because if you carry dual vibration, you're holding a key to the new world. And that key won't unlock anything if you're still trying to hide your power, suppress your darkness, or dilute your light. The time for pretending is over. You didn't come here to blend, you came here to build. The frequency forge, why your pain was the alchemy that activated your power. There's a truth most people will never understand because they've never had to live it. Pain isn't the opposite of power, it's the origin of it. And not just any pain, but the kind that shatters you from the inside. The kind that rewrites your spiritual DNA. If you are one of the rare ones who holds the dual vibration of a dark chosen one, then you already know this. You didn't stumble into power. You didn't read your way into awakening. You were forged in fire. And not the controlled kind you were dropped into chaos with no map, no mentor, no guarantee that you'd make it out. But you did. And every layer of pain you survived became a layer of frequency you now carry. That's the difference. You didn't just heal. You transmuted. People see you're calm and assume you've had it easy. But they don't see the nights you screamed into the void. They don't see the betrayals that broke your heart into pieces so sharp they cut every illusion you'd ever built. They don't see the moments you were begging for a sign, for a reason, for anything that would make the suffering make sense. But here's the secret. The pain was the sign. It was the call. It was the initiation. And your willingness to stay present through it, to not numb, to not run, to not spiritually bypass became the very thing that activated your code. This is why your vibration is different. It's not just high, it's heavy, not in a burdensome way, but in a grounded, undeniable way. You don't float above life, you sink into it. You don't preach love and light while avoiding your shadow, you embody both, fully. And that embodiment came at a cost. You had to die to the version of yourself that once believed healing meant perfection. You had to give up the fantasy that awakening would make everything easy. You had to face the truth that real power doesn't come from escaping pain, but from meeting it head-on and letting it refine you. Again and again and again. But here's what no one tells you, that pain gave you access to dimensions of reality that most people will never touch. Every time you sat with your suffering instead of avoiding it, you opened a portal. Not just in yourself, but in the collective field. You became a living channel for transmutation. That's why people feel shifted after talking to you, even briefly. That's why strangers tell you their secrets. That's why energy literally changes when you enter a space. Your pain wasn't wasted, it was coded. And now, your field carries that code. The code of survival. The code of truth. The code of integration. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why your darkest moments still echo in your memory, not as wounds, but as turning points? That's because they weren't just events. They were initiations. And they didn't just build your strength, they unlocked your sensitivity. Most people think sensitivity is weakness. But you know better. Sensitivity is awareness. And awareness is power. You feel deeper, see clearer, sense further, not because you're fragile, but because your nervous system has been stretched to its spiritual limit and rebuilt stronger than before. You are not broken, you are refined. And that refinement is your gift. It's what allows you to hold space for darkness without being consumed by it. It's what allows you to feel someone's pain without taking it on. It's what allows you to speak truth without weaponizing it. That's the dual vibration. You are both sword and salve, fire and water, stillness and storm. You are the paradox, and that paradox is the medicine. But here's where it gets real. Most people can't handle that. They want you to be one or the other. They want light without shadow, truth without discomfort, healing without honesty. But that's not what you offer. You offer wholeness. And wholeness is messy. It's raw. It's real. And it's rare. That's why you often feel like no one gets you. Because most people are still trying to be good, while you've already chosen to be true. And truth doesn't always look pretty. Sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like not saving someone who refuses to rise. You've learned that not everyone wants to be free. Not everyone wants to be seen. Not everyone wants to do the inner work required to hold the kind of power you now hold. And that's okay. Your job was never to convince anyone. Your job is to become the living embodiment of what's possible when pain is alchemized into purpose. That's the frequency you now radiate, and it's why your presence is so disruptive, because it says without a word, I've been through hell and I found gold in the fire. So now ask yourself this, what if your greatest gift to this world isn't what you do, but who you've become because of what you've survived? That question changes everything. Because once you realize that your pain was never punishment, but preparation, you stop hiding your scars. You start honoring them, and you recognize the truth. You weren't just forged in fire. You are the fire. The silent signal, why your energy calls the awakened and exposes the illusion. There is a language beyond words, an ancient signal that speaks not through sound, but through frequency. And you, whether you realize it or not, are broadcasting it every single moment. You don't need to say a thing, your vibration is already communicating. It moves ahead of you, lingers after you leave, and touches people in ways they can't explain but never forget. That is the power of a dual vibration soul. You are not just in the world, you're constantly shaping it, just by existing. And the more aware you become of this, the more you realize why everything in your life has been so intense, so charged, so different. Because you're not just here to experience reality, you're here to rewrite it. You've noticed it. When you walk into a room, the dynamic changes. Sometimes people get quiet. Sometimes they suddenly open up. Sometimes they shift into defensiveness or even hostility. But it's never neutral. Ever wonder why? It's because your field is pushing their subconscious to the surface. You are like a tuning fork for truth. And people who are out of alignment feel that resonance and start to come undone, not because you've judged them, but because your energy is inviting them into coherence, and that invitation threatens their illusion. You don't have to expose anyone. Your existence already does. This is why you attract the awakened and why you repel the performative. Light recognizes light, but truth also threatens the fake. And you carry both. You're not just light. You're the shadow that has been integrated, the pain that has been transmuted, the wisdom that was bought with suffering. That makes you dangerous to systems built on denial. It makes you magnetic to souls who are ready to awaken. You're not here to be popular. You're here to be felt. And you are on levels most people aren't even conscious of. You've probably noticed that people either confide in you deeply or avoid you entirely. There's rarely anything in between. That's because your energy is like a spiritual solvent. It dissolves the masks people wear, not out of cruelty but out of clarity. And that clarity is sacred. But it's also disruptive, because once someone has felt it, they can't unfeel it. They may try to forget you. They may even try to discredit you. But their soul remembers, because your vibration didn't just touch their mind, it touched their blueprint. And here's the deeper layer. Your energy is also a summoning. It's signaling others who carry similar codes. That's why you've had moments of instant recognition with strangers. That's why you've had dreams about people you've never met, only to encounter them later in real life. That's why you felt drawn to certain places, symbols, or times in history. Because your vibration isn't just a reflection of this lifetime, it's the echo of many. And in this life, you've chosen to remember, which means you've also chosen to activate. And activation doesn't come through teaching, it comes through frequency. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly allowed yourself to feel how powerful your energy actually is? Not in an egoic way, but in a sacred, reverent way. Most of us downplay it. We shrink. We try to make others comfortable. But at some point, you have to stop apologizing for your frequency. You have to stop dimming your signal just because others aren't ready to receive it. Because that signal isn't just yours, it's part of a collective mission. You're not broadcasting for entertainment. You're broadcasting for remembrance. And remembrance is contagious. One awakened soul can activate hundreds, sometimes silently, sometimes explosively. But the effect is real, and you've seen it. The people who come to you in tears and say something about you feels familiar. The ones who shift their entire life after one conversation with you. The ones who resist you at first but eventually circle back because your energy planted something they couldn't ignore. That's the work. Not flashy, not always visible, but seismic. You are not just a person. You are a signal tower. And with that comes responsibility, not perfection, but presence, integrity, awareness. You can't live like everyone else because your energy carries too much influence. You can't engage in gossip, in drama, in low-frequency habits not because you're above it, but because your signal will amplify it. That's the double-edged sword of being a frequency holder. You amplify whatever you embody. So the question isn't just, what do I believe? It's, what am I broadcasting? Every thought, every emotion, every intention, it all gets encoded in your field. And your field is always speaking. This is why solitude has been such a recurring theme in your life. Because your signal needed to calibrate. You needed time to refine it, to strip away inherited programming, to become sovereign in your vibration. That's why certain people had to leave. That's why certain environments became intolerable. It wasn't rejection, it was resonance correction. Your field was becoming too clear to tolerate distortion. And now, as your vibration sharpens, your signal gets louder, more precise, more potent. And that's when the real work begins. Because now, you're not just here to reflect or disrupt. You're here to guide, not by leading in the traditional sense, but by living in alignment so fiercely, so authentically that your very existence becomes a map. a vibrational blueprint. You don't need to convince anyone. Your energy will call the right ones, and it will repel the rest. That's not failure. That's filtration. So breathe into that truth. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be felt by the few who are ready. And those few, they're listening, not with their ears, with their frequency. The architect frequency, how your vibration was designed to build the new world. There's a moment in every real awakening where the seeker stops asking, "Why me?" and begins asking, "Now what?" And that shift is everything. Because once you've realized you carry the dual vibration of a dark chosen one, once you've felt the weight and power of that frequency, you can no longer live as if your life is random. It isn't. Not a single part of it. Not the wounds, not the gifts, not even the timing. Everything about you has been engineered for something far bigger than survival, far deeper than success. You are not just here to awaken, you are here to build. And what you're meant to build doesn't exist yet, not fully. That's why you've never quite fit into pre-existing structures. The jobs, the systems, the social norms, the spiritual communities, they all felt too tight, too false, too scripted. Because they were. You weren't made to serve what was already built. You were made to birth what hasn't yet been imagined. That's why your energy often feels 10 steps ahead. That's why you've always sensed that something more is trying to come through you, even when you couldn't name it. It's because you carry the architect frequency. The blueprint for the new world is encoded in your field. But here's the paradox: you can't build the new by using the tools of the old. That's why your path has felt so confusing at times. You've had to unlearn as much as you've learned. You've had to destroy internal systems, beliefs, traumas, attachments, just to make space for the real work to begin. You've been stripped down to the raw material of your soul, not because the universe was punishing you, but because your foundation had to be pure, free from distortion, capable of holding massive energetic weight. That's what makes you different. Your power isn't in how loud you are, it's in how deeply you've been hollowed and rebuilt. And now you're starting to feel it. The call to create. Not just content or art or ideas, but structures. New ways of living, healing, leading, connecting. You're not here to rebel against the old. You're here to replace it. To offer something so rooted in truth, so aligned with soul, that it makes the old paradigms irrelevant. But here's the catch. You can't do this by copying anyone. You have to trust what's coming through you. Even if no one else sees it yet, even if it makes no sense on paper, even if it terrifies you, especially if it terrifies you. Let me ask you something only you can answer. What is the vision that won't leave you alone? The one that visits you in dreams, in whispers, in moments of stillness. The one you've doubted, ignored, or pushed away because it felt too big, too impossible, too out there. What if that vision is exactly why you incarnated now, in this timeline, in this body, with this vibration? What if that vision isn't just yours, it's the collective's trying to come through you? Here's the truth most won't tell you. No one is coming to give you permission. No one is going to validate your role, because the system you came to build exists beyond their understanding. That's why you must trust your frequency more than their opinion. You're not here to be liked. You're here to lead through embodiment, through integrity, through resonance. And leadership, in this new paradigm, doesn't look like control. It looks like alignment. It looks like living so truthfully that your very presence gives others the courage to do the same. So what now? You start, you build, you create, not to be seen, but because your soul can't not express what's inside you anymore. You anchor your frequency in your everyday life. You make your choices from truth, not trend. You surround yourself with those who reflect your becoming, not your past. You stay rooted even when it's lonely. You stay open even when it hurts. And you remember, you are not building alone. Others like you exist, scattered across the world, quietly holding frequency, silently building temples of energy, of love, of truth. You may never meet them all, but you feel them, and they feel you, because your vibration doesn't need introductions, it recognizes. And what you're building together is not just for now, it's for the future, for the children of the new earth, for the ones who will be born into a world where authenticity is normal, where power is sacred, where duality is integrated. You are the architect, the blueprint, the signal, the spark. And now it's time to build.